I dialed Hugo's number, and his impatient voice came through the receiver, mixed with a woman's coquettish laughter. I spoke up, "I'm pregnant." "It's yours." He scoffed, "Wyan, have you lost your mind chasing money? We always used protection. Don't tell me you messed up and now you're dumping it on me." I clenched the report, my knuckles turning white, and asked calmly one last time, "So you don't want this child?" A contemptuous "get lost" came from the other end of the line, followed by a busy signal. "Fine, at least we won't have to fight over the child later." But 6 years later, he cornered me at the door, his eyes bloodshot as he begged, "Wyan, give me back my daughter." "Hugo, I'm pregnant." On the other end of the line, music blared, mingled with a woman's coquettish laughter. Hugo's voice came through the static, cold as ice, "Wyan, what trick are you playing now?" My nails dug deep into my palms as I forced myself to repeat calmly, "I'm pregnant." "With your child." A cold, mocking snort echoed back. "We always used protection. You think I'm stupid? If you need money, just say so. Don't disgust me with this." He said, disgusting. 4 months after our breakup, in his mind, I'd become synonymous with that word. Clutching the ultrasound report, the tiny image of the gestational sac looked fragile and vulnerable. I asked him, "Where are you?" "What, you want to catch us in the act? Here's an address, dare you show up?" He named the city's most exclusive private club, his tone dripping with provocation and contempt. He was certain I wouldn't dare go and humiliate myself. And he was right, I wouldn't. "I just want to confirm one thing, one last time. So, this child, you're sure you don't want him?" He seemed to have lost patience. A coquettish female voice came from the other end, "Hugo, who is it? So annoying." Hugo replied impatiently, "Some lunatic." Then he slammed the phone down. The busy tone, like a hammer, shattered the last remnants of hope in my heart. I slowly lowered the phone, gazing out at the city lights, not a single one lit for me. The day we broke up, the rain poured down in torrents. He stood across from me, holding a black umbrella. His once gentle eyes now held only cold detachment. "Wyan, this is the end," he said. I asked why. He just kept tapping the umbrella handle, the cufflinks I gave him reflecting a cold gleam in the gloomy light. It was his habitual gesture when he was restless. No reason. Just bored. 2 words, and he dismissed our 3-year relationship entirely. Looking back now, he wasn't just fed up, he'd been fed up for a long time. Fine. I carefully folded that ultrasound report and tucked it into my inner pocket. "Hugo, you said it yourself. I'll raise this child on my own. From now on, we'll go our separate ways." But I never imagined that 6 years later, we would reunite in such a way. He would be like a rabid dog, tearing at me, trying to snatch away the only light in my life. 6 years are enough to transform a city beyond recognition, and enough to completely change me. I left that suffocating city with my daughter Lulu and found my footing in a fast-paced metropolis. From an unknown illustrator to an art director with a modest reputation in the industry today, the hardships along the way are known only to me. Countless late nights, I'd rush to finish my work while taking my daughter's fever. Countless times, I teetered on the edge of breaking down amid the client's unreasonable demands and my daughter's wails. But every time I see Lulu's little face, which looks just like mine, I feel it's all worth it. To give her a better educational environment, I emptied my savings and bought an old, rundown school district apartment in the city center. On the first day of school, I personally walked Lulu to the school gate. With her little backpack on, she waved at me and solemnly told me, "Mom, my desk mate said we should strike first on the first day of school. Don't worry, I won't let anyone bully me." She made me laugh, and I ruffled her hair, "You little smarty pants. This kid is so sharp, I wonder who she takes after." Not me, anyway. I sure wasn't this socially adept when I was little. After school that afternoon, I went to pick her up, only to see someone who shouldn't have been there standing at the school gate. Hugo. After 6 years, he had shed his former youthfulness. Dressed in a perfectly tailored haute couture suit, he stood tall and straight, radiating an air of noble aloofness. Standing among the crowd, he stood out like a crane among chickens, drawing frequent glances from the parents who had come to pick up their children. He seemed to have lost some weight, his jawline growing sharper, radiating an aloof coldness that kept others at arm's length. Almost instinctively, I turned to slip into the crowd. But it was already too late. He saw me, and those deep, piercing eyes instantly locked onto me, like a hunter finally spotting the prey he'd been tracking for so long. He strode toward me with purpose, each step feeling like it was crushing my heart. I froze in place, my blood nearly congealing in my veins. "Wyan." He spoke, his voice deeper and rougher than it had been 6 years ago. Before I could respond, a small figure darted out from behind him and threw herself into my arms. It was Lulu. She clung to my legs, tilted her little face up, and pointed at Hugo with a serious expression as she reported to me, "Mom, this weird uncle keeps saying he's my dad. He wants to do a DNA test and fight you for custody of me." My heart sank as I pulled my daughter close. Lulu sighed, patted my hand like a little adult, and continued complaining in that exasperated tone reserved for dealing with today's grown-ups. "What am I supposed to do? You never told me my own dad's such a fool." Hugo's perpetually icy expression instantly cracked when he heard the word fool. Hugo's face was ashen, the veins on his temples throbbing violently. I could feel his pent-up rage, and even from several paces away, the air felt scorching. "Lulu." He practically growled the name through clenched teeth. "Who taught you to talk like that?" Lulu poked her little head out from my arms and stuck her tongue out at him. "My mom taught me that when strangers try to chat you up, don't be scared, just yell right back at them. If you have to, call the police." "Uncle, do you need me to dial 110 for you? This little brat is truly my mouthpiece on the internet." I forced down the shock and surging hatred in my heart, shielding my daughter behind me as I stared coldly at Hugo. "Hugo, long time no see. Your pickup lines are getting a bit stale." "Pickup line?" Hugo snorted in disbelief. He stepped forward, his overwhelming presence bearing down on Wyan. "Look me in the eyes and tell me she's not my daughter?" His gaze held a madness and obsession I'd never seen before. I met his gaze without flinching, saying each word deliberately, "No. You're lying." He suddenly reached out, trying to grab my wrist. I took a sharp step back, shielding my daughter completely behind me, and snapped, "Hugo, you dare lay a finger on us." My fierce reaction froze him in mid-motion. He hung there helplessly, his eyes filled with pain I couldn't decipher. "Wyan," his voice softened, tinged with a hint of pleading. "Let's talk. There's nothing to talk about between us." I flat out refused, grabbed my daughter's hand, and turned to leave. "Wyan." He called after me. "You think you can just run away? I've tracked down your address, it's right around here." My footsteps faltered. He's actually investigating me. A chill shot up from my feet to the top of my head. For 6 years, I thought I'd hidden myself well, yet he found me so easily. "What the hell do you want?" I turned around, my voice trembling in a way I hadn't even noticed myself. "I want my daughter." Hugo stared at me, or rather, at Lulu behind me, his gaze burning with a terrifying intensity. "She's my child." What a colossal joke. "Hugo, have you forgotten what you said 6 years ago?" I'm barely holding back my emotions as I remind you, you said whoever wants it can have it. Now you're coming to fight me for it, don't you find that ridiculous? He seemed to want to explain something, but in the end, he only clenched his fist. That familiar cufflink caught my eye once more. I noticed that when he clenched his fist, his right pinky finger would involuntarily curl slightly, a subtle movement he himself might not even be aware of. "Hugo, I'm warning you, stay away from my daughter." I dropped that line, giving him no chance to respond, and pulled Lulu away at a brisk pace. Back home, I locked the door behind me, leaned my back against it, and felt my legs go weak. Lulu tilted her head back, looking at me with concern. "Mommy, are you okay? Did that strange man bully you?" I shook my head, crouched down, and hugged her. Lulu, don't be afraid. Mommy will protect you. I'm not scared at all. Lulu patted my back like a little grown-up, comforting me. If he dares come again, I'll set the dog on him, that rocket dog we keep downstairs. Her words left me both amused and exasperated. But I knew Hugo wasn't some firecracker. He was a wolf starved for 6 years, and now he'd set his sights on my one precious treasure. That night, I was haunted by nightmares all night long, filled with Hugo's blood-red eyes. The next day, Hugo showed up as expected. He didn't force his way in. Instead, he chose the most cliched yet effective approach, blocking my only route to work. A black Bentley pulled up by the roadside. The window slowly rolled down, revealing his handsome yet utterly cold face. "Get in the car," he commanded. I walked straight ahead, pretending not to see him. The door opened, and with one long stride, he blocked my path. "Wyan, must you do this?" He looked somewhat weary, faint dark circles beneath his eyes. "Hugo, we're not that close." I walked around him and kept going. He stopped me again, this time pulling a check from his suit's inside pocket and handing it to me. 10 million, he said in a hoarse voice. "I know you've had a rough few years. This money is my way of making it up to you and your daughter. Hand over the girl, and I promise you'll never want for anything for the rest of your lives." I stared at that check, the zeros blindingly numerous. 6 years ago, when I was at my lowest, barely able to afford my daughter's formula, he was nowhere to be found. Now he wants to buy my daughter with money. I laughed, snatched the check from his hand, and right before his stunned eyes, tore it to shreds piece by piece. Paper scraps fluttered down like a belated snowfall. "Hugo, do you think money can buy everything?" My voice was as cold as ice. "In your eyes, can everything be measured by money? Feelings? My daughter?" His face paled. His lips moved, but no words came out. "Put away your bossy attitude, it's disgusting." I stared at him coldly. "And don't you dare bother us again. If you do, I'll call the police." With that, I walked away without looking back. This time, he didn't follow. I thought he'd give up at that point, but I underestimated his persistence. That afternoon, my boss, the design department director, suddenly called me into his office. With a peculiar look on his face, he said, "Wyan, someone's waiting for you in the reception room downstairs. It's Hugo from the Zhou Group, our company's largest investor." My heart sank. He had actually set his sights on my job. In the reception room, Hugo sat on the sofa with his legs crossed, looking relaxed. A document lay on the coffee table before him. Seeing me enter, he gave a slight nod with his chin, motioning for me to approach. I stood at the doorway, motionless. "What exactly do you want?" I cut straight to the point. "I told you, I want my daughter." He rose to his feet, walked up to me, and handed me the document. "Or, you can take a look at this." I didn't answer. He didn't seem to mind, flipping through the documents on his own and holding up a page for me to see. It was a paternity test report. Under the results section, bold black text declared, "Probability of father-daughter relationship, 99.99%. Now, what else can you say?" He closed in on me, trapping me between the door and himself, his scorching breath washing over my face. My whole body went cold. When did he get Lulu's sample? Was it yesterday at the school gate, or? I dare not dwell on it. "Hugo, you despicable man. To get my daughter back, I'll stop at nothing." He grabbed my chin, forcing me to look at him. "Wyan, about what happened 6 years ago, could there have been some misunderstanding?" His words left me stunned. "Misunderstanding? What do you mean?" He stared deeply into my eyes, his gaze churning with emotions I couldn't decipher. "Did you really think I gave up on you willingly back then?" Hugo's words were like a pebble, sending ripples across the still waters of my heart. What did he mean by not willingly? Were those cold words back then, "get lost and disgusting," all just my imagination? I shook off his hand and sneered coldly, "What's Hugo acting out now? A melodrama? Too bad I'm not in the audience." His eyes dimmed as he loosened his grip on me, stepping back to create distance between us. "I know you don't believe me now." He pulled a small USB drive from his pocket and placed it on the coffee table. Inside were all my call records and bank statements from back then. "Review them first, then decide whether you want to hear my explanation." After saying this, he gave me a long, lingering look before turning and leaving the meeting room. I stared at the USB drive as if it were a hot potato. My rational mind told me not to touch it, not to look at it. Hugo was a man of many tricks. This could very well be another one of his schemes. Yet emotionally, I couldn't control my curiosity. The end of that relationship has always been a thorn in my side. I still can't fathom how a man who was so tender with you one day could change so completely overnight. In the end, I picked up that USB drive. After getting home from work and putting Lulu to sleep, I plugged the USB drive into my computer. Inside the folder were various encrypted documents. It took me some time to crack them. It contains all of Hugo's call records and financial transactions from the 2 weeks leading up to our breakup through the 3 months following it. In the call log, one number appeared with alarming frequency, dozens of calls nearly every day. Upon checking, I discovered the number was registered in the capital city. The financial transactions were even more shocking. A week before the breakup, all assets under Hugo's name were transferred to an overseas account in a manner bordering on plunder. This timing coincided precisely with reports that the Zhou Group had experienced a cash flow crisis and was on the brink of bankruptcy. I remember it clearly. The news was everywhere, saying the Zhou family had offended some big shot in the capital and was being systematically crushed. Hugo, as the Zhou family's sole heir, bore immense pressure during that time. Yet he never showed a single trace of it in front of me. I always thought he'd simply grown tired of me and fallen for someone else. Could it be, there's more to the story than meets the eye? I shut down my computer, my mind a tangled mess. If Hugo's story is true, how do I explain all those heartless things he said to me back then? Just then, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. I hesitated, but answered it anyway. On the other end came a voice, elegant and refined, yet carrying an undeniable sense of pressure. "Wyan?" I asked. "Wyan? It's me. I am Hugo's mother." The other party introduced themselves with an air of condescending arrogance. "I wish to speak with you about my granddaughter. Name your price. How much will it take for you to return the child to our Zhou family?" Hugo's mother's words poured over me like a bucket of ice water, instantly dousing the faint flicker of doubt that had just begun to stir in my heart. So that's how it is. First the son plays the emotional card, now the mother throws money at me. The Zhou family really knows how to play this game. I clenched my phone, my voice cold as ice. "Maya, I think you've got it all wrong. Lulu is my daughter, not some commodity to be bought and sold. Wyan, let's cut to the chase." Maya chuckled softly on the other end of the line, her laughter dripping with contempt. "I've looked into your background. Single-parent household. Barely scraping by with your painting. With your circumstances, what kind of future can you offer Lulu? Is it spending her entire life with you in this old, run-down, cramped place, or returning to the Zhou family to receive the best education and become a legitimate young lady of means? You decide." Every word she spoke landed precisely on my sore spot. Yes, I couldn't give Lulu the most affluent material life. But I gave her all my love. My daughter doesn't need a future built on money. I took a deep breath to steady myself. "Maya, if you called today just to flaunt how rich your Zhou family is, then I'm sorry, I don't have time for this." After saying that, I was about to hang up. "Wait." Maya suddenly called out to me, "Wyan, do you really think Hugo still has feelings for you? Don't be foolish. He just needs an heir, a healthy, intelligent heir with Zhou family blood running through their veins." My heart felt like it was being crushed by an invisible hand, the pain so intense I couldn't breathe. "Just hand over the child," she said, "and I'll not only give you a large sum of money, but I'll also take care of the trouble your brother caused at school. She played her final card. My brother? My head buzzed. I only have one younger brother, Jet, who's been hospitalized for years and has poor health. He's always been well-behaved and sensible. How could he get into trouble at school? What did you do to my brother? My voice began to tremble. Nothing much. Maya's tone was nonchalant. She'd merely involved him in a fascinating academic project and accidentally leaked a bit of trade secrets. Now he faced massive damages and the risk of expulsion from school. Shameful. Vile. I was shaking with rage, wanting to reach through the phone and tear that hypocritical face of hers to shreds. Wyan, I'm giving you 3 days to think it over. Maya issued her ultimatum. Either take your money and your good little brother and get the hell out of here, or sit back and watch your brother ruin his reputation and destroy his life. Oh, and by the way, I forgot to mention, I was the one who made you leave Hugo all those years ago. The phone went dead. I slumped to the floor, powerless, my phone slipping from my hand. It turned out that from the very beginning, it had all been a trap. A trap meticulously set by Hugo's mother, that woman who stood so high above everyone else. 6 years ago, she forced me away. 6 years later, she used the same despicable tactics to try to take my daughter. Curled up on the cold floor, I felt helplessness and fear seep into my very bones for the first time. What should I do? I couldn't lose Lulu, nor could I stand by and watch my brother be destroyed. Just as I was at my wit's end, someone knocked on my door. Peering through the peephole, I saw Hugo standing outside. He seemed to have been standing there for ages, his hair damp with night dew, his expression filled with a panic and agitation I'd never seen before. I didn't want to open the door. Seeing his face now just made me sick. He and his high and mighty mother, they're both cut from the same cloth. Wyan. Open the door. I know you're in there. He started pounding on the door so loudly the whole building could hear. If you don't leave, I'm calling the cops. I yelled at him through the door. Go ahead and report me. He seemed to have thrown caution to the wind. The police are here, perfect. I'll demand to know what right you have to take away my right to see my daughter. This lunatic. I was afraid he'd disturb Lulu, and even more afraid the neighbors would come out to gawk. Reluctantly, I opened the door. The door swung open, and he squeezed inside, slamming it shut behind him. Your mother just called me. I stared at him, my gaze icy. His body stiffened, his expression turning grim in an instant. What did she say to you? She said that if I gave her my daughter, she'd pay me a huge sum and even help me resolve my brother's troubles. I repeated Maya's words to him, one by one. Hugo, is this the new script you two have agreed on? One playing the good cop, the other the bad cop? No. He denied urgently. I had no idea she'd come looking for you. And I certainly didn't know she'd gone after your brother. He grabbed my shoulders, his grip so tight it felt like he might crush me. Wyan, believe me, I really didn't know. Why should I trust you? I shook off his hand, tears streaming down my face. 6 years ago, you did the same thing. You said you loved me, yet pushed me away without a second thought. Now you're going to pull the same stunt again? I didn't. He growled painfully, his eyes red-rimmed. 6 years ago, it wasn't what you think. He pulled a stack of photos from his chest and slammed them hard onto the coffee table. The pictures scattered across the floor. I looked down, my pupils suddenly contracting. In the photos, there are intimate shots of me with a stranger. Some were taken outside hotels, others in dimly lit bars, all framed with suggestive angles. In the bottom right corner of each photo, an inconspicuous date is printed. It was just days before we broke up. This is what my mother showed me back then. Hugo's voice was hoarse as he said, You betrayed me for money and ran off with another man. I didn't. I screamed, losing my voice. I've never even seen these photos. I know you didn't. Zhou Yu's voice was even higher than mine, but I believed it back then. I was so furious I blurted out all that nonsense to you. Later, when the Zhou family fell apart, I was barely saving myself. I couldn't risk dragging you down too. I had no choice. I had to push you away. He clutched his hair in agony, crouching on the ground like a helpless child. Wyan, I'm sorry. I was too young and impulsive back then, blinded by jealousy and resentment. By the time I discovered those photos were all fake and tried to reach out to you, you had already vanished. I searched for you for 6 whole years. He lifted his head, his bloodshot eyes fixed on me, and pulled a yellowed, crumpled photograph from his wallet. It was the only picture of us together. In it, I was beaming, and he was looking at me with such tenderness. So he'd kept it all this time. My heart felt as though it had been stabbed by something sharp, the pain leaving me speechless. The truth was laid bare in such a brutal, bloody manner. Between us, it wasn't a lack of love that stood in the way, but 6 years of meticulously orchestrated misunderstandings and conspiracies. And the mastermind behind it all was none other than his high and mighty mother. The living room was deathly quiet. Hugo and I sat facing each other in silence, the air thick with tension and sorrow. 6 years of estrangement and misunderstanding couldn't be erased with a few words. So, I finally found my voice again and spoke hoarsely. You came here today to beg for my forgiveness? He snapped his head up, a glimmer of hope lighting his eyes, only to fade away just as quickly. No, I have no right to beg for your forgiveness. I just wanted to tell you everything. He stood up and walked toward me, moving cautiously, as if afraid of disturbing me. Wyan, I'll handle things with my mother. Leave your brother's situation and your daughter's matters to me. I won't let her hurt you too anymore. His tone was one of solemnity I'd never heard before. As I looked at him, my heart was filled with mixed emotions. Did I hate him? Of course I did. But more than that, I felt a deep ache. An ache for the person I once was, and an ache for the person he once was. We were both victims of that conspiracy. Hugo, I turned my face away, refusing to meet his eyes. This isn't just about you. She hurt my family, my daughter. I won't let this go. My composure seemed to catch him off guard. He looked at me, his expression complex. What do you want to do? Give her a taste of her own medicine. I picked up the fake photos from the ground, my fingertips icy cold. Doesn't she enjoy playing these dirty tricks? Then I'll play along with her. I unlocked my phone, pulled up the recording of my earlier call with Maya, and pressed play. Name your price. How much will it take for you to return the child to the Zhou family? He only needs an heir. I was the one who made you leave Hugo all those years ago. Every sentence felt like an invisible slap, landing hard across Hugo's face. By the time the recording ended, his expression had darkened to the extreme. He radiated a terrifying aura of hostility, his fists clenched so tightly they creaked. How dare she? Of course she dares. I turned off the recording and looked at him calmly, for in her eyes, we were all mere ants she could crush at will. Hugo, do you want to protect your daughter? He nodded without hesitation, yes. Then join forces with me. I reached out my hand to him, overthrowing your mother and reclaiming everything that rightfully belongs to you. Let those who look down on us pay the price. He stared at my outstretched hand, frozen in place. After a long moment, he finally reached out and clasped mine tightly. His palm was scorching hot. All right. He uttered only one word, yet it carried the weight of 1,000 pounds. In that moment, we were no longer exes harboring resentment toward each other, but allies standing on the same side. Our shared enemy became the strongest bond between us. Just then, the bedroom door creaked open a crack as Lulu rubbed her eyes and emerged. Mommy, are you guys fighting? She asked in her babyish voice. Seeing Hugo, her little frown immediately deepened as she eyed him warily. Uncle, why are you still in my house? Hugo, upon seeing his daughter, instantly shed all his hostility, becoming somewhat flustered. He crouched down, trying to look more approachable. Lulu, But Lulu dashed to my computer, her little hands flying over the keyboard as she brought up a surveillance feed. On the screen, the very same firecracker from downstairs was now aimed squarely at the wheel of Hugo's Bentley, rearing up on its hind legs. "Mom," Lulu pointed at the monitor, her expression serious as she reported, "the enemy's mount has been successfully marked by our biological weapon." "Hugo." "Me." The atmosphere instantly turned awkward. Hugo eventually slunk away, but before leaving, he gave me a lingering look and said, "Wait for my call." The very next day, I got a call from my brother Jet. He excitedly told me over the phone that not only had the school rescinded his disciplinary action, but the so-called business secret leak had also been proven to be a misunderstanding. Moreover, he had gained the recognition of his project advisor and secured a recommendation for graduate school admission. I knew Hugo had stepped in. His efficiency surpassed my expectations. 3 days later, the Zhou Group convened an emergency online shareholders meeting. I attended as Lulu's legal guardian. Before the meeting began, Hugo had already transferred 20% of his shares to Lulu. This move was like dropping a depth charge into the calm waters of the Zhou family. At the meeting, Maya's faction took the initiative to challenge Hugo's unilateral transfer of shares, questioning its legality. Citing his unstable mental state, they moved to remove him from his position as CEO. Maya sat in the chair of honor, her expression radiating confidence in victory. She thought she could still control everything like she did 6 years ago. Unfortunately, she miscalculated. Just as her people were passionately pleading their case, Hugo calmly played a recording. It was the recording of her calling me that very night. When the words, "He just needs an heir," and "I was the one who made you leave Hugo back then" rang out through the conference room's state-of-the-art sound system, reaching every shareholder's ears with crystal clarity, the entire venue erupted in an uproar. Maya's face instantly drained of color. She pointed at Hugo, her lips trembling, unable to utter a single word. "Mother," Hugo rose to his feet, towering over her with an icy stare devoid of warmth. "For the sake of an heir, you truly spared no effort. Not only did you drive away my beloved 6 years ago, but now, 6 years later, you threaten my woman with my nephew's education." He paused, then his voice rose sharply. "Do you deserve to be a mother? Do you deserve to be the head of the Zhou family?" Each word cut like a dagger. Immediately after, Hugo presented a series of incriminating evidence, including but not limited to proof of Maya's embezzlement of public funds, suppression of dissent, and insider trading over the years. Each piece of evidence was shocking and appalling. The shareholders completely turned against her. The final outcome of that shareholders' meeting was Maya's unanimous removal by the board of directors from all her positions within the Zhou Group, with her case subsequently referred to judicial authorities. Thus concluded a war fought without gunpowder. After the meeting, Hugo walked over to me. He looked somewhat weary, yet his eyes shone with an unprecedented brilliance. "Wyan, it's all over." I looked at him and nodded. Yes, it was all over. The 6-year entanglement of love and hate between us, those days and nights shrouded in conspiracy, it's all over now. But can we ever go back to the way things were? I don't know. All I know is that the wound he carved into my heart, though it has scabbed over, still bears a scar that remains clearly visible. The Maya incident sent shockwaves through the business world. After a brief period of volatility, Zhou Group's stock price stabilized under Hugo's iron-fisted management, even climbing higher than before. He became the city's most sought-after eligible bachelor. But he never came looking for me again. Instead, every day he sent people to deliver the freshest ingredients, my daughter's favorite toys, and all the rare art supplies I needed for my work. He seeps into our lives in a way that nourishes without making a sound, yet maintains a safe distance. I understand he's giving me time. Today was Lulu's 6th birthday. I threw her a small birthday party, inviting only a few classmates and neighbors. As evening fell, the doorbell rang. Thinking it was one of the guests, I opened the door, only to find Hugo standing there. He held a huge cake in his hands, still wearing the suit he hadn't had time to change out of, with a thin sheen of sweat on his forehead. Clearly he'd rushed straight over from the office. He saw me and seemed a bit nervous. Worried the cake I ordered might be late, I went to pick it up myself. He watched me cautiously. Could I go inside? Just to celebrate Lulu's birthday. Inside the house, the children were laughing and playing. Hearing the noise, Lulu came running over. When she saw Hugo, she didn't call him uncle like she used to. Instead, she tilted her head and studied him for a long while. Then she ran over to me, tugged at my sleeve, and whispered, "Mom, can we let this trash that can't be thrown away yet come inside?" Her peculiar choice of words made me laugh. I nodded. Hugo, as if granted a reprieve, immediately brought the cake in. The birthday party was lively. Hugo behaved very awkwardly throughout. He would get flustered when accidentally smearing frosting on his own face while handing out cake to the kids. He would also flash a helpless smile when, playing tag, he was chased around by a group of kids until he was completely flustered. He was no longer the aloof Hugo, but a clumsy father trying his best to win his daughter's affection. The party ended, and the guests had all left. Lulu, clutching the giant stuffed bear Hugo had given her, taller than a person, had fallen asleep from exhaustion. I carried her back to her room and tucked her in. When I came out, I saw Hugo quietly tidying up the mess in the living room. He sorted the trash neatly and wiped the table spotless, moving with such practiced ease that he hardly seemed like a pampered CEO. Hearing me come out, he paused and looked at me, a bit awkward. Wyan stepped before me, pulled a velvet box from his pocket, and opened it. Inside lay a diamond ring with a simple design. It wasn't a whopper, just a small diamond, yet under the light, it sparkled with a warm glow. I know that anything I say now feels hollow. His voice was hoarse, his eyes filled with an undying depth of affection and regret. I don't dare ask you to forgive me right away, but, could you give me a chance? He knelt on one knee, looking up at me with eyes as devout as a believer's. Give me a chance to make things right with you and your mother. Give me a chance to win you back. Give me a chance to be part of your future. Wyan, will you marry me? Outside the window, the city's neon lights flicker. Inside the room, his gaze is intense and sincere. I look at him, this man I've loved and hated, who's been in and out of my life for 6 years, yet still makes my heart flutter. I didn't answer right away. Instead, I walked up to him, reached out my hand, and pulled him up from the ground. Then, as he stared at me in surprise, I stood on tiptoe and kissed him softly. Consider it a full stop for the past 6 years. And a fresh start for our future.